what? We've already got a caller on the line. Let's get to a question. We've got Anthony on the line. Hey there, Anthony. What's your question tonight? How can we help?
Hey, Anthony.
Yes, sir. Hey, hello, everybody. I was wondering about a traffic stop I was involved in. It happened like 2 years ago, and they had placed a criminal case and a civil case against me. And the civil case was against my vehicle, which they ended up confiscating it, and the criminal case was against me. And I was wondering, was it possible for them to actually do that?
Yes, civil asset forfeiture.
Right.
Where are you in your cases? Have they been adjudicated? Are you still involved in these?
No, ma'am. They actually gave me something called informal probation, which I was able to be on probation, but not actually be on probation.
You just want to know, can they seize your property in a forfeiture case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll answer that question. I'm just kidding. Brian, Brian, go ahead.
Well played. Civil forfeiture, for better or for worse, is a relatively common thing that we see in cases where there's an allegation of a drug crime. The law in Alabama and federally allow the government, with proper notice and with due process, to seize assets if they are tangentially used in the commission of a crime. So, for example, if someone is moving an amount of unlawful drugs in a vehicle, they're using the vehicle for the purpose of transporting the drugs, especially if it's if they suspect it's later for sale. The vehicle being part of the crime can be the subject of a forfeiture action. They file a complaint against the vehicle itself or against the property itself in an effort to transfer the ownership from the former owner to the government.
But you can see where this could be abused, though. I mean, just if someone, like, at what level does the crime have to rise to for them to seize your property? I mean, if you are doing drugs in your car, can they take your car? Do you have to be dealing drugs for them to take your car? I mean, what level does the crime have to, does it have to be a felony? When can they do this? Outstanding question. I'm not sure there's a clear answer. We've seen that in very small amounts of possession. One great example, I had a case of a gentleman who had about a gram of marijuana and a large amount of cash, about $3,500 in cash. They seized the cash and attempted to forfeit it, claiming that it was the product of his drug dealing. It turned out he had a small amount for personal use, allegedly, and he had just gotten his paycheck and cashed it. Fortunately, he'd also kept his paycheck stub, so lo and behold, the amounts matched up perfectly. But for a small misdemeanor amount of marijuana, they attempted to seize the cash and some other property that he had in his car. But if you're found to be not guilty, can you then later get your items back? I mean, how does that work? If you're trying to fight the forfeiture, can you get your car back? Usually it's probably like a car or house, right? Or the money if you've got a lot of cash on hand, like in your example. We might have the cart in front of the horse. Normally they will stay the proceedings for a forfeiture until after there's an adjudication. The caller said that he had been placed on informal probation, which leads me to believe there was probably some sort of negotiated plea that resolved the criminal case that may, in fact, have resulted in the forfeiture of the item. Happens in municipal court all the time with small items. The defendant, as part of a plea deal, has to forfeit the property.
And if you've ever been to, say, Miami Beach or to San Diego, that's where you're from originally, you see some of the police officers sometimes driving Lamborghinis or Maseratis or Dodge Chargers, and they'll flat out tell you those had been seized from drug dealers. Is that correct?
Right, that is the case. And then we turn out and we have situations here where they're seizing this from people that have a small amount or a misdemeanor amount of a controlled substance. So the intention was, let's get these items that are being used to traffic large amounts of drugs, a large amount of contraband, and we'll not only take the person doing it off the streets, we'll take the vehicle and the method they're using.
But now they just somebody has a joint in their car, they shouldn't be able to take your car, correct?
But they can't. But they can.
Yes, that's our position. They shouldn't be able to, but it seems to happen.
Well, I'm curious of how many of your cases would you say this occurs, and how would you also say? I mean, is this done more on the state level, federal?
Sure. A lot of times you'll have a situation where we have someone who is, as part of a plea agreement, agreeing to forego certain property, allowing it to be forfeited. One of the big examples, we had the PPP loans. A lot of people have been charged or accused of obtaining PPP loans when they never had a business, they didn't have a legitimate interest in receiving the funds. Lo and behold, those funds are still in a checking account. They seize those instantly, of course.
But the PP, just remind people, that was for the COVID.
Yes.
And PP, a lot of people don't know what the initials stand for. But so the businesses were getting money, federal money, but a lot of people were doing it illegally.
That's the allegation, yes.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right.